Did you know that there are 5 different languages of the apology? And if it comes time to apologize to somebody, and I'm sorry if that's the position you're in and you need to do it today, that's too bad, but watch this video and subscribe to this channel. If you do it in the language that does not belong to them, you have decreased the odds that they will forgive you. That means if you have to apologize to your spouse and you don't do it in the right language, you're doomed.
You're doomed.
However, if you need to apologize to somebody and you're not really sure what those 5 languages are, you're in luck. This is Dan O'Connor, and these are the 5 languages of the apology.
Communication training with Dan O'Connor.
If somebody's language is touch, remember that we all have a bit of touch in us. If you don't, get some. But if you have to apologize to somebody whose language is touch, remember that when you touch somebody, whether it's your language or not, there are 3 chemicals that your brain releases when you touch somebody and when somebody touches you. And those chemicals are serotonin, dopamine, and oxytocin. Those 3 chemicals are some of the most delicious and most powerful that the brain produces. Most of the drugs that we take these days, other people, are to try and replicate those drugs that our brain just produces naturally when we do things like touch one another or pet a dog, which I think is very interesting and we'll get into in a different lesson because I'm on a time frame now. Thanks, guys. But if you touch somebody when you apologize to them, you don't have to give them a full-on, groping. Remember, those are the bonding chemicals. When we feel a bond with people, whether we know it or not, or like it or not, a true bond, the brain will be releasing those 3 chemicals during the bonding process. And so if your bond has been severed somehow by something that you did, simply touching somebody else can help repair that more quickly. Quality time. Remember, if you need to apologize to somebody and their language is quality time, that means that you can't just apologize and then think it's all done. They're gonna demand some time from you. They want a little bit of blood from your physical turn-up. So what that means is you might have to go out to lunch with them at work and don't talk about work. Asking a employee or a coworker out for lunch and then working all during lunch will not cut it as an apology because they're gonna think, what, I have to work more and that's somehow your way of apologizing? It means maybe you want to ride with them on the way home. If it's somebody that you live with, take time to just watch television with them, to just walk around the block with them, to just take them out to dinner, to just go to the movies, but spend a little more time than you normally do. Or during the apology process, maybe you wanted to take them out to apologize. That makes a big difference and is something that is necessary when it comes time to apologize. Now, of course, if you need to apologize to somebody and you do all 5 of these at the same time, you are guaranteed to move up the relationship scale. I was just telling my nephew Eamon the other day, when you do somebody wrong and you apologize the right way, or if you embarrass yourself, or if you commit a huge faux pas, as we all do, especially when we're growing up. So don't worry about it if you've done one and you need to apologize to someone's parents. But when you apologize in an effective way, people will forgive you and like you more than they did before you committed the faux pas. So as we see this in Hollywood all the time, some star is, some scandal, and then, they make up for it and go to rehab and, do something nice, and all of a sudden they're Hollywood sweetheart. We love them more than before they did it because they apologized the right way. So if you need to apologize to somebody whose language is quality time, make sure to spend time with them as you apologize and during the apology process. If somebody's language is words, one of the best ways that you can apologize to somebody whose language is words is by remembering that when you apologize, there's a process you must go through if their language is words, because they'll be very sensitive to you using the wrong words or the right words. If you were to say to somebody, for example, whose language is word or whose language is words, I'm really sorry if I hurt your feelings. You are doomed.
Doomed, I said, doomed.
Because saying to somebody, I'm sorry, does not cut it, especially if their language is words. So you want to tell somebody, I want you to know that I apologize for, meaning you have to say what you did. You have to say, I apologize for. And when it comes time to apologize to somebody, remember that it's always going to be for blankety, 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 you. I want you to know that I apologize for hurting you. I apologize for embarrassing you. I apologize for, stealing from you. I apologize for cheating on you. Whatever it may be. And it could be hurting your feelings, but whatever you're apologizing to somebody for, don't just apologize for what you did. Apologize for what you did to them. And then state the effect that it had on the person. Why are you apologizing to them? I realize how much that embarrassed you. I realize how much that humiliated you. I realize that in doing so, I really broke a bond of trust that we had. I realize that I really made life difficult for you that day. I realize that it really cost you a lot of time and money. Whatever it may be, that's when it comes time to say what the effect of what you did was, and then you wrap it up with another apology. I hope you can forgive me is a great way. So, Dan, I want you to know that I apologize for blankety blanketing you when I yada yada'd. I realize how much it blankety blanked you. I hope you can forgive me. If you say those things, that's going to dramatically increase the odds that the person will forgive you, because they will think, well, you apologized. They apologized, I gotta forgive them. If you can possibly do it, by the way, in front of other people, that's a great one to do, especially if somebody's language is words. Acts of service is somebody else's language. Yep, you're going to need to do something. If somebody's language is acts of service, if you live with them, try doing things such as, you know what their routine is. What are some things you can do to make their day easier? Can you pick up some of the chores that they normally do, and you can do them for that person so that they just have a nicer day, just so that they know when you do something for somebody whose language is acts of service, what that is saying to them is, the time that you spent doing that, you spent thinking of me, and you spent that time on me, for me, because you love me. That was time you spent loving me. Or if it's at work, for example, respecting me, appreciating me. That's what they think. That's what they feel. So while you might think, oh my gosh, can't I just pay somebody to do that? Like if you're at work and you do something, let's say that you wash your coworker's car, and you think, oh, now if this isn't your language, you might think, well, why didn't I pay somebody to wash their car? There you go. I mean, the car gets washed, I can take credit for it. Because they think the time you spent washing that car, you did that for me. You were thinking of me. The contrition that you did that with was for me. And if you just pay somebody else to do it, it does not count. People whose language is acts of service think of those acts in a different way from people whose language is not acts of service. So if it's at home and you're doing the chores for somebody, you're not just doing the chores. Remember, you're loving them. You're apologizing to them as you do that. Acts of service, remember, aren't about the acts. It's about what the acts mean. Just like when we come to giving and receiving gifts. Remember when you have to apologize to somebody whose language is giving and receiving gifts, they can and I'm saying this because that's my language, they can very likely forgive you like that because you gave them a gift. They will think, oh, well, you apologize, so I forgive you, if you give them the right gift. Remember that a gift to somebody whose language is giving and receiving gifts says two things. It says, I pay attention to you, and here's what I've noticed. So if you give somebody a gift that was if you're regifting something, as I mentioned before in a different lesson, or if you get a gift that is not, even if it's very expensive, but it's not for that person, you're going to make things worse. Because they're going to think by the gift, they're going to read that as thoughtless. They're going to think, wait a minute, a gift says to me, you notice me and here's what you've noticed. But this doesn't say anything about me. You haven't noticed a thing about me. You don't care at all. Or, I'll put that away and give that to somebody next Christmas because I know that Mary would really like that. But if you don't pay attention when you get somebody a gift as an apology to who they are and what you've noticed about them. Remember, a gift is a reflection of what you've noticed about that person, what they need, what would make their life easier, what they like. So if you need to give somebody an apology and that's their language, choose your gift wisely. They will also know how long it took you to find that gift. So just do it wisely, but don't underestimate the power of that. And if it does not, by the way, need to be something that you actually pay for. It could be that you notice that somebody at work really likes a certain type of cookie. So you took the time, because you know them a little bit, to go to their cousin and get a recipe for some cookies that their grandmother, who's now deceased, used to make. You made those cookies and brought them in. I'm getting all verklempt just thinking about somebody doing that for me. I mean, that would cover, by the way, so many different languages. That would cover acts of service. That would cover giving and receiving gifts. And if you give it to them, they will hug you, and that will cover the touch. You can combine different languages when you apologize to somebody to really, really increase the odds of them forgiving you. But remember, if you know what the 5 languages are, and you tailor your apology to that person's language, you have dramatically increased the odds of them forgiving you, and then you can move along in the rest of your relationship. So, for more tips like these, remember to subscribe to this channel and to go to DanO'ConnorTraining.com. So this is Dan O'Connor for Buddy and Maggie, here for everybody at Dan O'Connor Training, signing off.